Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lydia Colbita.
And I'm Casey Cantz. We do continue to follow the statewide correction officer strikes that have carried on yet another day.
They continue despite New York Governor Kathy Hochul's midnight deadline for strikers to go back to work in order to be spared from disciplinary action.
News 10 ABC Zion Dakota joining us live from Coxsackie tonight, where corrections officers from the Coxsackie and Green facilities are demonstrating. Zion.
Casey and Lydia, day 5. We are moving into a 5th day of protests here outside of the Coxsackie and Green facilities in Coxsackie, and protesters remain just as determined as ever. Take a look right now. Not much has changed regarding a deal between protesters and Governor Kathy Hochul. All day long, we've had people driving by honking in support, one even yelling expletives about Governor Hochul. On the flip side, someone drove by with a bullhorn yelling for strikers to return to work. But they say that they'll stay out here as long as it takes. They even brought in more firewood moments ago. They're going to stay here as long as it takes until their demands are heard. The fire of protesters' resolve burns another day, despite the governor's orders for them to return to work by the heat of the night. Active duty COs wouldn't speak fairing state retaliation, so retired officers like Jim Stone spoke up.
They weren't really too worried about that midnight deadline to go back. There is concerns, with your family and everything and stuff, but yet they're still here today. We still have plenty here today. We'll be prepared to be here all weekend. Stone
tells me protesters are doing what they have to, despite the illegality of public worker strikes under New York's Taylor Law. The strikes also haven't been sanctioned by NYSCOBA, the Correction Officers Union.
They're not allowed to sanction. It's against the law for them to sanction what they consider a legal strike. They're still negotiating on our behalf, that's what I understand, so we'll wait to see what they have to say.
Recent figures show Coxsackie houses 694 inmates, while Green has 1,314. What are conditions like for people who are still on the inside?
They're working 12-hour shifts. They get 12 hours on, 12 hours off, but they're not off. They cannot leave the jail. They're staying in there for 12 more hours, and then they go 12 hours again the next day. The guys in there for 60 straight hours right now.
Protesters' major beef is with the HALT Act, which limits solitary confinement. Yesterday, the Department of Corrections temporarily halted parts of HALT that cannot be carried out safely during strike-related low staffing. Demonstrators say solitary is a key tool to removing bad actors from the general prison population and servicing compliant inmates.
We're denying services to the incarcerated individuals that are trying to do their programs, trying to go to medication, trying to go to chow, trying to go to the yard, do their recreation. But we have to serve for the incarcerated individuals that continue to cause problems in the facility for our officers and for other inmates.
And in just the 2 minutes that I've been out here with you, I can barely feel my fingers, so you can only imagine the men and women who have been out here for hours. Some since 7 o'clock this morning, some are operating in shifts, some staying until late at night. They say they will be out here again as long as they have to until they get a satisfactory deal, from Governor Hochul's office. Reporting live in Coxsackie, Zion Dakota, News 10, ABC.
Oh boy, all right, Zion, thank you for that. As Zion mentioned, corrections officers have not spoken to us on camera for fear of retribution.
One officer did agree to speak with us only if we concealed their identity. They tell us that they and their fellow COs are not planning on leaving, even if the strike lasts weeks. They add they wanted to speak out about the poor conditions, and that is worth bucking authority.
We're expected to do a 24-hour shift in one of the most dangerous environments within the state, within the country, with no breaks. We're not allowed phones to where we can just contact our family for 5 minutes. You have people with kids here, wives, husbands, and we can't reach them for 24 hours a day. That creates such an anxiety within us. We're all aware that there will be disciplinary against us. Unfortunately, that's something we're aware of, and we know what will happen.
And we will have much more on that interview with the correction officer in our next half hour. And we're going to stay on top of this story for you, too, moving forward, both here on air and online, as we continue to follow these strikes happening across the state.